In the current digital economy, your personal information is harvested invisibly. Details about your location, habits, and identity are siphoned off to fuel a sprawling, opaque shadow market of corporate data brokers. The proposed alternative to this extraction is a privacy-preserving data market, or PPDM. In this model, the shadow market is replaced by a transparent ecosystem where users intentionally opt in to share their information. The mechanics are straightforward. A PPDM operates as an open ledger system. Instead of corporations scraping data, users actively route their personal information to specific businesses, researchers, or institutions in exchange for a direct reward. On paper, this structure creates an immediate win-win. Consumers regain informational self-determination, deciding exactly who gets what. In return, data buyers secure higher quality, legally compliant datasets directly from the source. Yet, the entire viability of a transparent data market hinges on a single, unresolved psychological question: what actually motivates a person to willingly hand over a piece of their digital identity? The standard industry answer to that question relies on the privacy calculus theory. This concept assumes that humans are rational economic actors who weigh the privacy risks of sharing their data against the direct monetary benefits they receive in return. This theory leads product managers and engineers to treat user data strictly as a commodity. If the user resists sharing their data, the assumption is simply that the financial payout isn't high enough yet. A 2020 empirical study from RWTH Aachen University in Germany was explicitly designed to test the limits of that economic assumption. The researchers focused on uncovering the actual mental models users apply when sharing their information in a decontextualized online world, a space far removed from the physical cues we rely on in real life, like closing a door or locking a filing cabinet. The Aachen study set out to measure exactly where financial compensation sits relative to mathematical anonymity in the user's decision-making process. If the data shows that anonymity cannot be traded for cash, the standard economic models of data acquisition relied upon by major tech companies would no longer hold. The researchers began with a quantitative survey of 800 internet users, asking them to rank the conditions they would require to participate in a hypothetical data market. This chart maps the importance of market conditions on a 1 to 6 scale. Top-scoring factors like data security, simple data deletion, and anonymity score above a 5. Even the lowest priority condition, sufficient rewards, scores a 4.33. This phenomenon is known as a ceiling effect. When users are asked directly to evaluate privacy features, they claim virtually every single feature is extremely important. For UX researchers and product engineers, these stated preferences are difficult to act on. Building software requires trade-offs, and if every feature is marked as a critical priority, engineering teams have no empirical way to allocate their development resources. While stated system conditions remain flat, the willingness to share specific types of data is highly stratified. This chart reveals user willingness based on the category of personal data requested. Sharing benign data, like age, averages a 3.84 out of 6, but requesting high-risk identifiers, like income or location data, drops willingness to roughly 2.5. Simply asking users what they want creates a false equivalency. To map actual behavior, researchers abandoned basic surveys for a method that measures how users react when forced to make a compromise. To overcome the ceiling effect, the researchers initiated a choice-based conjoint experiment. A conjoint experiment is a statistical technique that forces participants to evaluate complex, realistic scenarios where they must weigh conflicting variables against each other, isolating the value of a single feature. The Aachen model tested 5 specific attributes: the type of data, the level of anonymity, the data receiver, the security of the app, and the monetary benefit offered. This graphic shows the exact visual iconography presented to the study participants to represent these attributes during the test. During the task, a participant is forced to choose between imperfect combinations. They might have to decide between Scenario A, offering low pay and no anonymity, and Scenario B, offering high pay for a social profile with complete anonymity. To ensure accuracy, researchers segmented the participants by their baseline privacy concerns, separating users with high baseline concern from the general sample to see if inherent trust altered the results. The study utilized the concept of complete anonymization as its baseline variable, because laypeople traditionally view privacy as a binary physical state. Translating that binary mental model into a fluid, digital data market is the central user experience challenge for privacy engineers. By forcing a choice between competing variables, the Conjoint experiment mathematically isolates the value users assign to their privacy versus their wallets. This chart reveals the relative importance of the 5 attributes. The anonymization level dominates the results, dictating roughly 35% of the user's decision-making process. In contrast, the benefit attribute accounts for only 14%, less than half the impact of anonymity. This indicates a fundamental misalignment between the economic assumptions of the privacy calculus and actual user behavior. We can see exactly how user acceptance shifts based on specific feature tweaks by examining the part-worth utilities generated by the test. This breakdown shows how participant preferences shift. Notice the substantial utility penalty for offering no anonymization versus the positive spike for complete anonymization. Compare those massive swings to the minor shifts observed when raising a user's payout from 5 to 75 euros. The segmentation data showed that users who already exhibited high baseline privacy concerns prioritized the anonymity attribute even more than the general sample. The evidence suggests that users do not view identity protection as a premium feature they can be bribed to forfeit. It is a prerequisite for market entry. The part-worth utilities outline a worst-case scenario for data sharing, asking a user to send their raw financial data to a bank for 5 euros, protected only by facial recognition, with 0 anonymity. Present a user with this combination and the transaction is rejected. Misaligned product design fails to convert users, regardless of the payout. The scenario with the highest acceptance relies on routing a mid-tier social profile to a trusted public administration with high reward, double password security, and complete anonymity. The model proves that surface-level app security measures, like facial recognition or fingerprint scanners, do not compensate for a lack of true back-end data anonymity in the user's mind. To bridge this gap, engineers use k-anonymity, a method of grouping a single user's data with a specific number of other individuals so they cannot be uniquely identified. For product teams, this confirms that UX security theater is not a substitute for back-end anonymity. Any team building a data-driven service must prioritize anonymization frameworks at the architectural level long before they determine their monetization strategies. In the future of the digital economy, user trust is not a commodity that can be purchased with higher payouts. It must be cryptographically engineered from the ground up.